sound like the dude just said. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to the end of the week. Holy smokes. I don't know why a 4-day week felt longer than the average 5, but it did. It just felt long. But we got a sound effect for Friday, so hit it, man. Friday! Yes, it is. And we'll get you all the way to go home time here on a Friday afternoon. Glad you're with us. Stay tuned in. We got all kinds of stuff, but right now that's JP pushing buttons on the board. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm good. It's Friday. How are you?
Friday. I'm good. I'm good enough. The rain finally lit up. Holy cow. Are we done with that for a while?
I saw, I think, what was it, like 10 cities in Alabama set records for this month of May, how much it rained.
Animals are lining up 2 by 2 thinking there's an ark to get on board.
Well, what's the saying? It's April showers bring May flowers. Maybe May showers bring June flowers. Who knows?
Well, yes, or at least maybe a June golf course that looks really good outside our window.
Now we're talking.
All right, hey, we got a great show laid on for you here on a Friday afternoon. Coming up the beginning of hour number 2. I told you yesterday that I had a friend who had made national news for a second time. Her name is Bunny Pounds. And Bunny started an organization called Christians Engaged. I'm going to tell you all about her, but she's actually going to be calling in. So we've got her coming on at the top of the or the beginning of the second hour. And then it's, halfway through hour number 2 on Friday afternoon. You know what that means. We gotta set it all aside for a minute and jump on into some JP on sports. So yeah, we'll have JP on sports coming up halfway through hour number 2. And then I've still got a triple dipper. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right. The Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, I'm calling it Christians Engaged, which is the name of the organization that Bunny Pounds founded. But Christians Engaged is also what we're supposed to be. So I'm going to talk about that in more detail. Yesterday, I talked about, the fact that Gen Z is getting more engaged. Now we're going to talk about Christians being engaged, because you may be interested to know that there is also some serious belief that Christians voting in the last election cycle were part of what won the day. So yeah, Christians engaged. That's number 1, triple dipper. Number 2, oh yeah, every once in a while, we got to look around, see what's happening in and around and amongst us, take measure of the news in our locals, and go with some home fries. So we'll cook up a batch of home fries coming up as number 2 on the triple dipper. And then number 3, I kept finding stories about things the Trump administration is still having to fix. Fix this, fix that, correct this, fire that person. I decided to call the entire dipper Fixing Jackassery, because, oh Lord, there's a bunch of it. And yep, what I like is the fact that they are working not just to identify it, but to actually fix it. So Fixing Jackassery, that's number 3 on the triple dipper. All right, let me move on into today's opening monologue, the Rightside Way. I'll remind you guys that attorney Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. And not only was Stan a great attorney, he's a longtime OG Rightside ruffian. So we'll talk about him more in a few minutes. But he's the daily sponsor of your Rightside Way monologue.
Practice of War sounds better.
Practice of War does sound pretty cool. I'll be honest. Speaking of the practice of war. So let me kick off. I was down at Fort Benning recently. I was down at Fort Benning recently, and at one particular moment, I was standing near the grounds of the airborne school. It's the place called Tower Branch, where they train you how to jump out of the airplane by jumping out of towers and doing zip lines, all that kind of. Anyway, I was standing next to the airborne school's Tower Branch with my 2 grandkids, and I was showing them where their daddy and I had both trained to be paratroopers. The towers that we jumped out of, the sawdust pits where we learned how to roll and do a perfect PLF, or parachute landing fall. I told them how we spent weeks learning how to jump out of airplanes. And my 3-year-old granddaughter, she looked at me with as serious a face as a 3-year-old self could ever make. And she very matter-of-factly said, when I get big, I'll jump out of airplanes too. And you know what? I believe her. And okay, look, knowing this audience, I'm going to bet, in fact, I know some of you, that there's some right-side ruffians out there who were paratroopers. Graduates of the Airborne School at Fort Benning, Georgia, the place where they take those individuals who've gone through life as what paratroopers like to call dirty, nasty legs and turn them into bona fide sky soldiers. So bear with me. It's a whole thing, you understand. You see, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane is by no means a relaxing endeavor the way the U.S. military does it. No, sir. Everything about it's made harder, it's noisier, it's less comfortable, and by the way, it's pure D awesome. I don't care how many skydives you've got, right? I don't. I don't care how many skydives you've got until you strapped on 60 pounds of combat equipment and 35 pounds of parachute harness and gear and tied down your weapon, responded to the calls of the jump master to stand up, hook up, and shuffle to the door, and on the green light, get the command to go and throw yourself into the darkened night, knees to the breeze, eyes on the faint horizon, feeling for the ground from 1,000 feet AGL. You have not lived. I'm just saying. Okay, so my testosterone levels have spiked a bit, but really, let me ask you, think about it this way. What does it take to become a paratrooper? I mean, it's just gravity, right? How hard can it be? The laws of nature are going to suck you out of that big steel bird when you stand too close to the edge of the door frame. So gravity just does the rest, right? Wrong. You see, here's the thing. Anybody can jump out of a perfectly good airplane. Anybody can, but not everybody lands well. It's the landing that makes all the difference. But that's where the training comes in. It takes training to be able to land correctly, lots of training. The whole jump itself from the time you exit the aircraft is maybe a couple of minutes. But the airborne instructors, we call them black hats, they spend 3 weeks training you, and there's a great deal of time spent on actions in the aircraft, taking control of your canopy, familiarization, use of equipment, all that. But the bulk of the time you spend at airborne school, you're learning how to land, doing what I referred to a moment ago as a PLF, a parachute landing fall. You literally are taught over and over and over again, repetition after repetition, to keep your feet and knees together, your knees slightly bent, your toes slightly pointed, turn your chute to the wind, slow your descent, look out for your fellow jumpers, lower your combat equipment at treetop level, eyes on the horizon, relax, roll from the balls of the feet, the calves, the thighs, the buttocks, side muscle, kick over and dig your heels in the ground, activate your canopy release to avoid being dragged, all of that. And you do it to the point that after you've done it over and over and over again, you should be able to do it in your sleep. It's like muscle memory, really. Because every paratrooper who's ever jumped will tell you that, especially on those first few jumps, you're in a mental fog sometimes. It's a combination of hyped up and scared to death. It's the muscle memory that saves your hide when you make contact with the ground. And a paratrooper who jumps into a combat zone, and I've known a few, they can be rendered combat ineffective just by not landing correctly. I mean, they might not even get shot by the enemy. Just a bad landing, and they suddenly become a liability to unit effectiveness. This is why every single military jump has a specific pre-jump training you have to conduct. It includes practicing your PLS before you ever put on the chute and get on the plane. And I've had some good landings, I have. I've also got 3 fused vertebrae in my neck to prove that I've had some bad landings. And I can distinctly remember some of them, like times when the drop zone was so dark that I couldn't see the ground I was about to land on. What did I do? I relied on my training. The time the jump master put us out over the trees, not over the drop zone, what did I do? I relied on my training. That time the wind picked up in hard gusts, or that I was drifting too close to an obstacle, or that time another jumper got too close to me in the air, what did I do? In each and every case, it was about drawing from the overly repetitious, sometimes mundane, but absolutely necessary preparations that I had made well before the jump. That's what made all the difference. Knowing what to do before I had to do it. So here's my point. I say all that, I tell that story and enjoy telling it, by the way. But here's my point, because there's always a point to these commentaries. We conservatives have got to get ready for the day. You hear me? We have got to get ready for the day. It's not enough to simply look at the ballot on election day and decide who you're voting for. We got to recruit the good candidates for office. We got to know the issues. We got to be conversant in the latest news of the day. We have to know why we say that we're a conservative. We have to know the right questions to ask and the right resources to review and the right means of speaking it and conveying it to others. If we as conservatives wait for somebody else to do it for us, guess what? They will, and it may not be what we would have wanted. We have got to have our ideological muscle memory in check. You heard me. Our ideological muscle memory. The ability to see something and know whether or not it fits within our belief system, our worldview. It's more than just soundbite knowledge, mind you. I'm talking about being a student of the things that you care about. And you don't have to know everything about everything. You don't. You can be well-rounded, sure, but you may have like just a certain niche, a niche that you want to focus on. Maybe your passion is, pick one, pro-life issue. Maybe your priority is education. Maybe you're a fiscal conservative and you have issues with government spending and taxation. Or maybe you care most about foreign policy or national defense or civil liberties or constitutional law. You pick. I mean, if it jazzes you up, if it's part of the way God wired you, then become a student of that topic and how to advance that cause in a conservative manner. But do not think for a minute that if you don't do it, it'll just work out. It's like I said before, gravity will always take a paratrooper down to the ground, but it's how you land that makes the difference. So, how well do you know what you believe? How well are you prepared to engage with what you believe? All that comes together because of what you do well in advance. All of that focus in advance is what prepares you for the day that you actually get to put it into motion or speak it unexpectedly or to vote or to run for office yourself. Look, if you're listening to this show right now and you listen any number of days, then that means you already take care probably more than the average citizen. I mean, shoot, you could be listening to a music formatted channel or sports, but no, you tuned in right here to Conservative News Talk because you actually care, because you have a desire to see or do more issues of the day. It's that preparedness in what you believe and what you care about that's going to help you later. Ingrain the memory. Now, in the fight later, ingrain the muscle memory now. George Patton used to say, you sweat more in training, you bleed less in battle. John F. Kennedy, he once said, things do not happen, things are made to happen. And that great pontificator of wisdom, Dr. Seuss, he said, you have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself any direction you choose. It's true. What you do today will help you set the stage for success for tomorrow. And that's not just about work and family and finances. It's also about your ability to actually impact culture, to shape your community, to make a difference in your own sphere of influence. So I say, prepare yourself, my friends, a bunch of Rightside ruffians. Learn the issues, study the topics, stay abreast of the news, meet the candidates. Don't wait till the last minute and hope for the best. If there's a school board meeting out there with your name on it, be there. If there's a conversation you need to have with somebody at work, do it. Maybe with a friend, go for it. You're far more likely to hit that drop zone and be an effective member of the team in the fray if you've worked out that ideological muscle memory long before you ever put your ideological knees to the breeze. And we need you. We do. Absolutely. Because we may have won the last election, but we got more to do. So be ready for the day. That's what I say. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Yeah, there it is. Be ready for the day. As surely as a paratrooper has to learn and repeat the steps that it takes to safely land because it means something to land correctly, the same is true for any one of us in the public sphere. What do we believe? Why do we believe it? How do we act on it? You get ready in advance. It's ideological muscle memory, my friends. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Text lines are open. Text it. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it. But I will tell you this, the phones are still our nemesis right now. We even got, which is, by the way, it's an amazing thing which you have to go through. But JP even got a hard reboot done on the phone line integration box that we've got here, and it's still fighting back.
Let me tell you, I think I've done everything I can. It's one heck of a thing.
Are you bearing the emotional scars right now?
It hasn't been fun.
We're getting there, but we got to work around for a few things. I think we may even have a workaround for getting Jeff from Indiana on the show, because you got to find out what our buddy Jeff's doing. But all that to say, text lines are definitely open. Call lines are definitely not. So my apologies for that. We're still working the issue. By the way, I got to tell you about attorney Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald. Oh yeah. I was talking to him again yesterday. We talk fairly frequently, but Stan McDonald, he's a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. He's a daily sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue. So yeah, and here's the deal. Stan McDonald's not only one of those guys who can actually, stand up for your legal needs and do what you need done legally, but he's also an OG ruffian from way back. He's been in the politics and policies that Rightside ruffians care about for years. So yeah, attorney Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say if Stan McDonald is on your side, you have no greater friend, and likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So I'm going to tell you how to reach him, because you might want an attorney in North Alabama. Stan McDonald, here's his phone number, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. Okay, here we go. No representation made. The quality of legal source be formed with great quality legal source. How many shots? Show it.
Is that close?
Dadgummit. Anyway, something about him not being as good as other lawyers, or maybe they're all the same and no lawyer is better than another, and that's crap. But anyway, Stan McDonald's a great lawyer, and I like him.
No practicer of war is better than the other.
No practice of war. That's right. No practitioner of war is guaranteed to be a greater practitioner of war than the other one down the road. Text line, see what I got here. Robert from Athens says, "Dear Colonel Phil, Jesus said the meek will inherit the earth, but meek does not mean weak." That's right. The word in Greek is praeus, which means a powerful war horse who is gentle toward its master but fierce in battle. How about that? I've never heard that. It said Christians are not supposed to be victims. We are supposed to be warriors. Robert from Athens. Okay. Maybe paint that whole thing on the wall. Just saying. Give me a Sharpie. I'm writing that whole quote up on the wall. He may have already won the text lines for the day.
By the way, we are getting YouTube comments about Lawyer Phil again. Whenever you wear your tie, it's Lawyer Phil's back.
I was indeed Lawyer Phil before I walked into the studio.
But then John Paul from Huntsville said that he prefers casual Phil over Lawyer Phil. So,
by all means, let me strip down to a t-shirt.
Yeah.
David at Bucky says, I found that when discussing the issues with a liberal, I have a tendency to ask, why do you believe and support your view on that issue? Most of the time, they can't give me a good reason. Then I explain my thoughts, and they usually can't argue and quickly change the subject. David, I have found that to be true multiple times. In fact, that was one of my favorite tactics debating in the well of the Senate, to go up there and say, well, explain to me why you feel that way. Or when they'd say, we don't fund education enough, or every woman deserves an abortion, I'd go up there and say, who's every woman? Because my wife and daughter don't feel that way. It's fun. You're right. When they are required to actually explain their dogma, it doesn't always work out. John from Huntsville checking in, also saying, Phil, spectacular monologue. Also, did you hear that Elon Musk is leaving the federal government? I did. He was supposed to already. We knew that. So by the way, JP, hope you talk about Stanley Cup playoffs and the Indy 500. Just there you go.
I have to add it to the list now.
Because JP on Sports is coming up. All right, you guys. More stuff. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all have talked about this show. Whew, it goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. All the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we now call, once again, Fort Benning. And then, big old patches in North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. Yes, indeedy. And that's just the radio audience. And then there's all you online people anywhere in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web and streaming us live every single day. We appreciate it on X, Facebook, on our website, on YouTube, and then all you podcasters. Anyway, bottom line is every one of y'all are ruffians, and we appreciate you being a part of this audience. Couple more text messages, then I'll dive right in. David Bucky's again says, hey, Phil, why is the big news that Elon Musk is leaving the federal government? By law, he can only serve for 130 days. President Trump knew this, and I bet he already has plans. That's exactly right. I think the big news today, as far as I could tell from Fox, was that they were honoring the fact that he had been there. The big news from CNN was he's getting rid of Elon Musk. So go figure. But yeah, you're right, David. He was considered a special short-term employee, and I think it's 120 or 130 days he was capped. Scott from Athens says, one day when I grow up, I'm going to be a SCOTUS justice so I can run this country. Okay, go for it. Matthew from Washington says, hey, Phil and JP, Matthew from Washington. That's our buddy out in Washington State. He said, checking in with you. Happy Friday. Excellent monologue, Phil. Thank you, sir. Said, you're exactly right. Stand your ground, know your topic, share your knowledge to as many people as possible, even in the deep blue state that y'all might be in. On another note, he said, my wife and I's house is going on the market up here in 2 weeks. Hey, he says, glory be to God, LOL. He said, my wife and I can't thank y'all for helping us power through so we can get back to God's country. Have a great weekend. Man, that's awesome. Get some applause. All right, well, Matthew, blessings on you. So, Lord, we just ask in Jesus' name that their house would sell for an extremely favorable amount and in quick time, and they would move back here and be able to be at home. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, there you go, Matthew. Appreciate you, man. Keep us posted. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, sometimes fighting back means even if your candidate is not the one you choose, you still have to go out and vote for the best conservative candidate. Yes, and I've got a piece on that here in a minute. So the little known facts that I ran for office 3 times. Hey, did you really? 3 times locally now, twice city council as a Republican, even once as a city councilman as a Democrat. Wow. It's confession time for Jeff from Indiana. He said, because in this town, Jesus Christ would not be elected if he was a Republican at the time. I was running, so it doesn't really matter what flag you're under as long as your goal is good. Well, man, I'm so glad to hear you've been in the fray. I did not even know that, Jeff Rose. That's interesting dynamic. And you're a former Democrat. That is, I shall have to poke fun at this.
That's a little crazy.
That's we need something like a Jeff from Indiana used to be a Democrat sound effect, and I don't know what it would be, but we'll have to find something else. All right.
Wait. You're telling me Jeff from Indiana was a Democrat?
That's what. I didn't see that coming.
You walked into that.
I just walked my mouth hanging open. And then Merle from Huntsville just says, hey, Phil. Hey, Merle. How are you? Good to see you, man. All right. So we got plenty of going on right now, but I will tell you this. I think was it yesterday? Was it yesterday I did the Gen Z stuff? It was, wasn't it? Yeah. So the days begin to blur, brother. Every once in a while I have to find, have I done that monologue before? It's only been a few years of doing this, but so I'm going to have somebody on the show here in a little while. Yesterday, I was talking about the fact that Gen Z, and that is the age group of our JP guy, but Gen Z, which I think we said was from the age of 18 to 29. Is that right?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I can look it up.
I think it's currently right now 18 to 29 is what I remember. But I think anyway, Gen Z has been really swinging more and more to the Republican Party, especially Gen Z guys. And then there was also a talk about whether or not there maybe is a break in Gen Z. There's old Gen Z and young Gen Z, whatever. The bottom line is, in terms of the last election, there was a huge influence of votes, massive points difference compared to where they were in 2020 to where they were in 2024. Well, one of the other major influential bodies is the Christian vote. Christian votes have had a decided impact on the most recent election. I did a piece this morning. I do this thing every morning called Thoughts on the Morning Drive. If you follow me on social media, you'll see it. It's me in my car on the way to work. And I take about a minute to a minute and a half, and I pontificate on something of the day, something that's, if there's not a major news story, then I talk about something that just means something to me. This morning, I talked about the fact that Christians have to be engaged. And I don't mean just like Christians have to vote. I mean, Christians have to care. Christians have to participate. Christians have to fully invest themselves in the fact that someone's going to govern them. That's the law. The law of our land is that somebody's going to govern you. It just is. There is no anarchy. We are not a libertarian society in the truest sense in terms of having no governance. You're not going to have a day when there's not a government. So wouldn't you like the government you have to be one that cares about things like good stewardship and faithfulness and courage and, all the values that we read about in Scripture? I would. And then you get the argument about, well, I don't know, Christians should be mixing their faith and their politics. Yes, they should. Yes, they should. You know why? Because if you don't, then somebody else will fill the gap. How about that? I mean, think about it. Someone's going to be in charge. Wouldn't you like to be somebody that believes like you? And here's the other piece. If it is the most important thing to you, which your faith should be, I mean, think in order: God, family, country. I'm a much better husband if God is first in my life. I'm a much better soldier if God's first in my life. I'm a much better lawyer, businessman, whatever the case may be, dad, everything, if God is first in my life. At the same time, if God is first in my life, then that means I can't leave him behind when I go step into something. You can't just say God's first in my life, except for politics. It doesn't work like that. So I say boldly and unapologetically, go ahead and say, I'm a Christian by God, and therefore I am in my politics by God. Go get her done. I got a piece here from the Barna Research. George Barna is a research guru, and he's basically located at Arizona Christian University. But Barna specializes especially in research and data points related to the Christian faith in the public arena. Barna had a study of the post-election. Fascinating. He says new post-election research, and by the way, this came out about a week or 10 days after the election. He said new post-election research shows that Christian support was crucial to Donald Trump's 2024 landslide victory, showing that Christians, those who profess to be Christians, made up 72% of the overall electorate. That's huge. That's a good sign. 72% of all those who vote, if the sample trend he has plays out the way it's supposed to, would mean that 72% of American voters in that election profess to be Christians. Of those, 56% gave their vote to Donald Trump. In comparison, he says, among people of other faiths or of no faith, Vice President Kamala Harris was preferred with 60%. Wow. Think about that. Those who openly say, I am not a Christian or I'm of a different faith than Christianity, 60% of them said, we're for Kamala Harris. It just,
it's telling a little bit.
It does feel a little telling. It does feel like it just sort of gave something away. By the way, I don't know about you, JP, but apparently I did not know this. I am a SageCon.
A SageCon.
SageCon. Spiritually active, governance engaged, conservative Christian.
Why? There's a title for everything.
There is, but apparently this is how Barna's research has. I mean, throughout the entire article I'm looking at, SageCon is talked about. So all of y'all out there who are spiritually active and governance engaged conservative Christians, you are SageCons. You may not have known it, but that's how you're categorized. So I embrace the title. I think I need a hat.
I'll buy that hat.
SageCon.
It's just like how Christian nationalism is supposed to be some derogatory term
Christian
as well.
nationalism. You see, I love my country. I love Jesus. Okay, I'm a Christian nationalist.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. SageCons. SageCons who held true to form almost universally, like 99% turnout, repeated their 2020 levels. So bottom line is massive of those who would identify as SageCons or be categorized there voted Republican. Within that, also that body, 70% of those who identify as Catholics voted Republican. And of those who claim to have at least a biblical worldview, 67%. And then we look at other factoids. Other factoids. Most common reason for not voting was lethargy. What does that mean? Laziness. That means they didn't get around to it. 1 in 5 people of voting age who are self-identified as Christians said they intended to vote but simply forgot, never got around to it. However, I will say there was a similar level of neglect among non-Christians, but it was more in us. It was 20% for us. It was more like 18% for non-Christians.
It's not how that should be.
It is not how that should be. Do not let yourself be standing before St. Peter in heaven and say, by the way, why didn't you vote that time? Oh, I don't know that he will. Just saying.
Oh, the kid had a soccer game, and I had this big project I was working on, and
I was kind of tired. It was raining.
The in-laws were in town or something
no.
Yeah, not working.
Trump's most concentrated Christian support came from the Sage Cons. Sage Cons, 90% for Trump. Those who were categorized specifically as white born-again Christians, 74% for Trump. Those who identify as Pentecostals and charismatics, 74% also for Trump. And then here's an interesting one. For Christians, the key concerns were inflation first, then immigration, then abortion, and then democracy. Okay. So we basically, the same things we saw across the board, Christians cared about them. The difference is, did Christians get out there and get busy about it? So in a few minutes, I'm going to have somebody on the show, and she formed an organization called Christians Engaged. So my friend Bunny Pounds, we met at a conference. We were both fellows in an organization's foundation called Club for Growth. So Club for Growth Foundation fellows, we met at a conference and sort of stayed in touch like I did with all the networking with the other members of the group. And I had her on the show. Oh gosh, I bet it's been 2020, like not long after I went on the air. So probably almost 4 years ago, because she immediately got targeted by the IRS. Oh shoot, yes she did. And she won. Oh yes, she did. We'll come back from this break. I'll tell you more about it. And then coming up top of the hour, we'll have Bunny Pounds herself on the line to talk about it. Plus the fact that she was at a rally in Seattle that I spoke about yesterday, in which LGBTQ activists began to harass Christians just for being Christians. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Merle from Huntsville checking in. He had sent me the Hey Phil thing, and then it came in. I guess there was more. He says, Merle from Huntsville, just going to let you know that we have been in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Have been listening all week to your show. Thanks for doing a great job. Merle, thank you for that. Enjoy your time, man. I just pray that it goes well. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. Jeff Rowe from Indiana says, by the way, he was a Dino Democrat in name only. Democrat in name only. Okay, I got it. And yeah, okay, we'll see, man. Kind of like he says, a lot of the Republican rhinos in Alabama, when they couldn't get elected as Democrats, he just called me Dino. We'll call him Dino. He's
Dino Jeff.
Yeah, Dino Jeff. John from Huntsville also checking in says, hey, Phil, since my buddy Jeff was willing to confess that he used to be a Democrat, I'll confess that until the age of 10, I used to be an Alabama fan like JP, but something happened that I just couldn't get over, and I became an Alabama hater and later an Alabama fan. Or an Auburn fan, I mean.
Interesting. I wonder what that moment was.
It's True Confession Day on Rightside.
Don't go too crazy with the confession. Okay.
You stop now. Remember, we have to read this online or on air. The Christians Engaged organization that I'm talking about a minute ago. Back in 2021, I had my friend Bunny Pounds came on the show. So here's what happened. She formed an organization called Christians Engaged, and the whole purpose of it was to help Christians understand how they can truly get involved in their politics, in the policies, in terms of impacting their culture. And granted, we should always be, going therefore into all the world. And her calling, she said, was she realized she was called to be a missionary to America. And part of that meant you can't just leave the public sphere alone. You can't just say, I'll go over here and all I'll do is church. Because if you do that, you're leaving aside the fact that there will be people in charge who might impact your church. So maybe you want people in the right places in every realm of society, including politics. Well, she formed this nonprofit called Christians Engaged. She got a letter from the IRS denying her confirmation. And listen, I'm going to tell you, when I heard this, I think I even said to her when she was on my show, I can't believe they put that in writing. Because what they literally said to her was this. I got a quote from it. The IRS said to Bunny Pounds from Christians Engaged, Bible teachings are typically affiliated with the Republican Party and candidates. What? How can they, what, I want to know what intern, what DEI hire, what knucklehead was working at the IRS and thought, I know what I'll do. I'll just tell her we ain't going to give it to her because she sounds political because, Christians are the Republicans. Okay. Let me just make sure that I'm clear. You put that in writing. Well, anyway, bottom line is she stood up on it. She said, ain't going to happen. You remember Lois Lerner and the IRS back in the Obama era targeting Tea Party groups. And my friend from Alabama, oh, by the way, who now runs the Eagle Forum, she was the one who testified in front of Congress, Becky Garrettson, that they got discriminated against. Well, now my friend Bunny Pounds is in the same position, except that a group called First Liberty got involved with her. Council for First Liberty Institute got all in, and they got the IRS to recant. So victory number one was that. But the bottom line for this is Christians have to get involved, recognize that someone might not like the fact that they're involved, and then do it anyway. You just, listen, you're going to have to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. Whew, does that make sense? A wolf in sheep's clothing. You're going to have to be. You're going to have to be willing to get busy. The agency explained in its denial letter to Christians Engaged that Bible teachings are typically affiliated with the Republican Party. It also commented on the fact that several of the group's leaders are apparently active members of the GOP. Like, why'd they study that? And the agency interpreted these facts to include that Christians Engaged was not entitled to a tax-exempt status. How'd that work out? It didn't work out for the IRS, not at all. And then as her mission has grown, and she's had, any number of opportunities to be around the nation, speaking and working and encouraging and being a part of things through her ministry of Christians Engaged. She was speaking just this past weekend at an event in Seattle. And this event in Seattle, the organization that she was there to be a speaker for, was targeted by the city of Seattle, who did not want to grant them a permit to be in a public park. And so instead, the city of Seattle required them to go meet at a different park, knowing full well they were sending the Christian group into the lion's den because that was the Antifa LGBTQ activist park. And when the LGBTQ activists found out, they were incensed. And so all the counter protesters showed up to make life miserable and accosted them and claimed that Christians were the problem. And the mayor of Seattle made it worse by taking the side of the protesters. My friend Bunny was there, and we'll get a firsthand review of it here momentarily. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. stories. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Friday. We're going to get you all the way to go home time. Now, listen, a moment ago, I told you that I've got a brand new word. I'd never heard this before. Sage cons. Sage cons. Spiritually active, governance engaged conservative Christians. I like it. Sage cons. Well, I consider myself a sage con, and my next guest is absolutely a sage con who is definitely out there in the mix. Bunny Pounds and I met at a conference. We were both fellows in a fellowship program under Club for Growth, and we met at this conference. She's been on the show before, but it's been a few years. But she calls herself a missionary to America, and she formed an organization called Christians Engaged. She's got a degree from Dallas Baptist University. She spent 10 years working as a congressional staffer for Texas Congressman Jeb Hensarling. She started her own political consulting company, very successful. She ran as a congressional candidate herself. And she also, by the way, says she has a heart that is burdened to help Christians both pray, vote, and engage. And she's on the line right now. Bunny Pounds, how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, Phil, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on. I love the state of Alabama and love all our friends in Alabama.
Well, thank you. And thank you for what you do, by the way. And I don't know if you could hear me a moment ago when I was saying it, but have you ever heard that term, sage cons, spiritually active governance?
I have.
I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, there's been a lot of surveys related to that George Barna's done through the years.
Yeah.
And, they were really, at least Barna has really said that the sage cons were the ones that caused President Trump to win in 2016. We've seen, analyzing the last elections data, we saw an increase in Christian voters in the Hispanic Latino communities. We saw a huge shift in the Catholic vote.
Yeah.
But the white suburban evangelical churches still need to wake up in force. And we've still got a lot of complacency there. And so, yeah, Christians Engaged, our ministry was created 5 years ago. I was a political consultant, as you said, and was really burdened that we kept messaging and talking about Christians and voting, but we never built systems to actually engage the church and push people out to vote. And so we built a 50-state get out the vote system for Christians from a nonpartisan perspective. So any Christian in the country can go on our website, text us and get in our system to pray, vote, and engage. And they're going to get voting reminders and biblical worldview education to vote in every election and to really pray for our country, learning to pray for government, learning to pray for America, but also to engage in local government, federal government, state government. We built curriculums and classes to pretty much accomplish anything that anybody wants to do in government and politics as believers.
That's just so cool. And that's so necessary. I mean, and I think too often people, and I said this on my show earlier, and I did it in a brief that I put on, or a video that I put on my social media this morning, is that too often Christians feel like they've kind of been beaten down to believe that, faith and politics, you can't mix the two. Well, yes, you can. In fact, yes, you should. Because if we don't, guess what? The gap's going to be filled. Someone's going to be in governance. Wouldn't you rather it be someone who believes like you believe?
Yeah, I want to put it in perspective, Phil. We don't think one life matters, but, in the state next to yours in Louisiana, there was a child born to a woman, that was under, 16 years old mother that chose life, kept that baby. He went on to become a constitutional lawyer, went on to be a state representative, went on to be a member of Congress, and is now the Speaker of the U.S. House.
Wow!
And for the first time in American history, the House of Representatives has defunded Planned Parenthood. And if the Senate holds that provision in that bill and the president signs it, what an amazing accomplishment that young kid named Mike Johnson has done.
No kidding. What a great background story. That's the kind of anecdotal information that people are missing too often. But I think it goes straight to your point. Christians have to get engaged. Christians have to be willing to pray, vote, and engage their politics, impact their culture, be out there in the public sphere. Now listen, you guys did that. You formed Christians Engaged a few years ago. And then you filed for your IRS determination. I'm an attorney. I help 501s file all the time. And I know what it means to get that whole thing filled out, that massive, tranche of information you got to provide to the IRS to get that determination letter. And then you got denied with one of the most jackleg ever things that was put down in paper and sent back to you that immediately backfired on the IRS. Am I right?
Oh yeah, no, this was in 2021, and a lot of your listeners might remember, Phil, we became a national story. The IRS put in writing they were denying our tax exempt status for Christians engaged because, quote unquote, Bible teachings are typically affiliated with the Republican Party and candidates. And I was like, what? And then they went on to attack our signature class, which any Christian can take now in the country. And we're re-recording it for the third time now after 5 years. But it's called On Ramp to Civic Engagement. And we taught through issues from a biblical perspective. So we're not telling people what to believe, Phil. We just put 3 or 4 scriptures on a screen and said, the Bible has a lot to say about the issues of our day. And the IRS said, because you're teaching on the sanctity of human life, biblical justice, debt and taxation, Israel, these things are inherently Republican, and therefore you're not nonpartisan. Yeah.
Well,
and what an insane thing. And this is what government tries to do. If we as citizens, Phil, are not vigilant, if we don't fight back, if we don't say not on our watch, they will try to take away our freedoms. And we beat back the IRS in 21 days and got our tax exempt status.
Yeah, you did. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, was it First Liberty Institute that got engaged with you and decided to come in there and be legal counsel for you? That was huge.
Yes. And Kelly Shackelford's now on our national advisory board of Christians Engaged. So Kelly and I, we're doing a lot of partnerships within Christians Engaged, and Family Policy Alliance, our now parent ministry as well, with First Liberty. We're very thankful for them.
Whatever DEI hire at the IRS wrote that letter may well have done more to actually boost you in terms of your capabilities than anything.
Oh, for sure, Phil, that we went from 79,000 Christians in our database at that time in Texas to creating a 50-state system. We went from 225,000 Christians in a year. And then last year, we had a significant merger with Family Policy Alliance that was started out of focus on the family 20 years ago.
Yes.
And this amazing organization with 41 family policy councils, we went from 225,000 Christians to 850,000 Christians in 6 months.
How about that?
So, what the enemy means for evil, God returns for good. And this should encourage everybody, go with a vision.
Oh, we just lose her? Still there? Hang on, Bunny, we lost your audio. Can you hear us? Oh, no, I want to hear about the Seattle thing. Okay, we'll see if we can get her back on. Is she back on? Buddy, you there?
Oh, I'm here. Okay. I'm here.
Yeah, we lost you. We lost you there for about 10 or 15 seconds. So get us right back again real quick, and then I want to touch on Seattle. But you said that basically you went to 850,000, and what Satan had intended for evil, God intended for good. And then I lost you.
Yes. Yeah. No. Seattle. I was asked by a woman named Jenny Donnelly. She has a movement called Her Voice Movement. It's really interesting, the story, because Jenny and I started our ministries at the very same time. December 2019, she was in Portland, Oregon, getting awakened from her sleep as a kind of complacent Christian related to political engagement. And her 3 words that Jenny started was pray, fast, stand. And I was starting a ministry called Christians Engaged the very same month, and my 3 words was pray, vote, engage. And I thought that was really significant. It's like Jenny's like step 1 and I'm step 2 in the way we kind of organized. And so Jenny and I have become friends. She helped lead a Million Women event in Washington, D.C. last year. And she invited me to come on this tour called Mayday. And we've gone to Houston, we've gone to Miami, we've gone to New York City. And then last weekend we were in Seattle. And Phil, all hell broke loose in Seattle.
Literally.
We had, I've written articles on this for the Christian Post and Charisma, but we had probably 500 to 1,000 protesters. Antifa showed up. 23 people got arrested. All we were doing was praying, worshiping in a public space where we got a permit that the mayor approved, the city council approved. We're talking about the importance of biblical values. We're not like attacking anybody. We're loving on everybody. We're preaching the gospel. And the mayor came out afterwards, if people haven't been following this story, and saying he had to look into our right to be in that park, and that we were attacking the values of Seattle, attacking. And I'll just say this, Phil, I'm sure people in Alabama can relate to this, but as a Texan, we live a pretty sheltered life.
Yeah, it's true.
We live a pretty safe life. And I had a huge wake-up call as a Texan, what Pacific Northwest Christians and California Christians and Washington State and Oregon Christians are dealing with. Because when I'm looking at families with kids, maybe 1,000 people there, Christians out there with their little kids, surrounded by protesters, and they're willing to worship God and stay there and preach the gospel and talk about their family values in a public space, we've got a lot of wake up to do in the South.
Well, we do.
And we got to break out of our complacency.
Listen, I got to tell you, we got about 2 minutes left, but I got to tell you, I had a good friend who, before the Iron Curtain fell, he was doing ministry with what would have to be called underground churches in the former Soviet Union. And he was there, and he was meeting with a lady one day, and he told her, he said, "I want you to know that in America, we're praying for you." And she looked at him and she said, "No, we're praying for you in America because you have it too easy." And the whole point there was that literally we sometimes forget that in our red states here in America, Christians actually, like you said, live a somewhat sheltered life, and you have no idea until you go to the Pacific Northwest or parts of California, and you even see churches with rainbow flags. You're like, what is happening around here?
Exactly.
But yeah, so the mayor came out and attacked y'all, and literally, if you don't mind, with about a minute left, what's the outcome?
The faith office of the White House has gotten involved. The FBI is dealing with them. ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, I think is going to do a case. And then we're going to LA this weekend, and LA has decided to revoke our permit. We were supposed to be on Hollywood Boulevard. There's now a gay parade going to happen. And so we're in a legal battle. Jenny Donnelly and her ministry and our partnerships are in a legal battle there too. So pray for us that we can take this tour to LA and we can find that the church is alive and well there, and we can push back on our First Amendment rights.
Well, I'm going to do it right now on the air. Lord, in Jesus' name, we pray your blessings on Christians engaged upon this event in LA. We pray your covering, your protection, and we pray you swing wide your heavenly gates in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, wow. All right, sister, that was even better. I thought it was going to be, but I'm glad to have reconnected with you. And I love the fact that you're still winning on a national stage. Thanks for all you're doing. And it's amazing to watch the growth you've had just since the last time you and I talked a few years ago. So stay in the fight. We'll stay in touch. All right.
Well, thank you, Phil. And every Christian, take our pledge to pray, vote, and engage, and join a movement of Christians that will vote in every election.
Absolutely. Thank you, Buddy Pounds. We appreciate you. Take care. Well, that was cool. And I know I ran long. I got to go to a break. Go ahead and move it to the break there, JP. But I hope you heard that. Listen, that's somebody who was actually like in the mix at a national event. First of all, she stood down the IRS. And then you watch what's happening right now with them being engaged, just going to pray in a park and having the mayor of one of the largest cities in the nation try to mock them and say that you're distorting the values of our city. I got news, folks. Christians better be engaged. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. Hey, listen, I got a couple of quick text messages. I'll grab some of those real quick. Thomas from Athens said, hey, Senator, SageCon. I like it. Also, he said Webster defines a saga as a mature or venerable person of sound judgment. Okay, there you go. Or sage, I'm sorry, a sage as a mature or venerable person of sound judgment. That fits. Oh, he says it fits me well. Thank you very much. He said, my faith informs me that my Lord is with me always. I should not ever put him aside for any reason, especially to be involved in politics, to bear fruit for him and serve and love my neighbor as my Lord commanded me to do. Thomas from Athens. Thank you, man. Adam from Athens also says, I was an Alabama fan until I was about 10 because my dad's a fan. I like to say that was before I could think on my own. Go Vols.
Well, John on the YouTube is saying Mike DeBose is the reason he quit being an Alabama fan.
Well, that does make sense. I think I get it. I mean, that's even worse than Shula. And then we got a meme from one of our listeners. Elon Musk leaves his job of making government more efficient for an easier job of sending humans to Mars. Babylon B. Dave from Capshaw. Thank you. All right, we're coming right back. We are coming right back. And oh, by the way, it's time for JP on Sports. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the northern, not just northern half, we're to the southeast U.S. of A. I mean, this show, Lord, it goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we now call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And then, oh, by the way, that's just the radio audience. Then all y'all that are out there live streaming, all y'all that are out there podcasting, I mean, anywhere in the whole wide world, people going to the World Wide Web and picking up Rightside Radio. And we appreciate it. And we thank you because y'all are the reason why we do this. All right, you know the deal. It is Friday afternoon. Y'all, it is Friday afternoon. We are halfway through hour number 2. That means we pause. We take a moment, we gather ourselves, and we set aside just all the angst about politics and the uproar about culture, and we just step back a minute and let the guru of sports himself. Listen, I don't care who's got a sports show out there. They don't have JP. JP on sports. And by the way, he has his own sound effect, courtesy of sorority girls at Auburn University. Play it. He loves it. Every time he does it, you ought to see his face.
Great. What can I say?
All right. I'm going to quit doing all the talking. I'm going to say, first of all, though, that we do have 2 rounds. The first round is called the 3 and out. JP has
Inspired Advisors is sponsoring the JP.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, he was whispering to me. I couldn't tell what he was saying. Yeah, this is all brought to you by Inspired Advisors, and we'll tell you more about them in a few minutes. But yes, JP does a 3 and out. It's the 3 top stories he sees out there in sports world in general. We take a break, come right back, and he has the 2-minute warnings. That's where he runs 2 minutes on a variety of segments related to sports. 3 and out. JP, take it.
Well, we are upon, in my opinion, one of the more underrated periods of sports, especially in the college world. Of college baseball postseason is upon us now. It's one of the more fun ones, in my opinion, especially when we get towards the end and we get to Omaha. A lot of teams can get streaky and go on runs, and it's very entertaining. But the SEC, if you thought they dominated in basketball this past year, the SEC is continuing to dominate in baseball because 13 SEC baseball teams made the postseason, and 8 of those are hosting a first round regional. And one of those teams is Auburn. Auburn plays against Central Connecticut State tonight.
Central Connecticut State.
Yes, which is another fun part about baseball is I feel like the college baseball talent pool is much more widespread than, I mean, college football is getting to that level, but college football isn't at that level with teams like, Central Connecticut State. I feel like the talent pool is spread out a lot more evenly in college baseball. We get teams like Central Connecticut State who can make a regional, and you may look at that name like, who's that? But they got solid players on that team, more than likely. So, but Auburn, like I said, is hosting a regional tonight. Alabama will be traveling. They're actually playing right now against Miami. I think they're down 4 runs. They're not getting off to a great start today, but they're playing Miami, and their regional is at Southern Miss. So I believe how the first round of the regionals work, it is double elimination, if I remember correctly. So even if these teams, drop a game and the first game they play, they still got some cushion there to keep going. But yeah, look for the SEC to continue to dominate in baseball. 13 SEC teams, and 8 of those are hosting a regional. It's just crazy.
That is crazy.
It's nuts.
I mean, it was football, then it's basketball, and now it's baseball.
Now it's everything.
SEC is like, yes, okay, we're not going to get cocky about it, though.
Why not? Come
okay, all right, fine. All right.
Now.
So, by the way, that double elimination, is that a double header, or is that just like you have to lose 2 games to be out?
Yeah, lose 2 games to be out.
Okay, any 2 games.
So like it's obviously it's like a 4-team bracket to start, and so the losers of the both games play, and then the winner of the losers game then plays the winner of the winner's game, and then the loser has to beat the winner 2 times. Anyways, yes, double elimination.
I need a whiteboard now.
You lose twice and you're out. So
okay.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
All right, yeah, loving some postseason baseball. That's cool.
Oh yeah.
Go War Eagle. All right, so that's 1. What's 2?
NBA playoffs continuing to go. We're inching closer to the finals. We have our first team that has clinched the finals. The Thunder had a gentleman's sweep against the Timberwolves. It was pretty dominant, except for the one game the Timberwolves were able to sneak out. And what's funny is the one game that the Timberwolves, beat the Thunder on, they beat them pretty bad. But they, like I said, got gentlemen swept. So the Timberwolves are out. Thunder are going to the finals. And the Eastern Conference Finals, it's turned out to be a great series like I expected. So it started to look like the Pacers were going to run away with it. They had a 3-1 lead going into the game last night at Madison Square Garden, and then the Knicks fought back and were able to get a game back. So now it's 3-2, and we're going into Saturday. We'll be going back to Indiana. So Indiana, the Pacers are still one game away from clinching the playoffs, but the Knicks are trying to push this to Game 7. This is a very close series, in my opinion. I think whoever wins is going to lose to the Thunder anyways, but it's still a great series. Much closer than the Western Conference Finals. But Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns last night were able to have great games and push it over to Game 6. So we'll see tomorrow night if the Pacers can close it out at home or if we're going back to Madison Square Garden for Game 7.
All right, cool. That's 2. You're blazing through. You're going to wind up in overtime.
I got a lot of meat on this last one. So
okay. So you're bringing the big dog for number 3.
Yeah.
All right,
strategically. So if some people are tired or hearing about the WNBA,
oh God,
listen, I think this is.
Can I raise my hand?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a fascinating. What we're seeing is fascinating, but also for the wrong reasons. The WNBA is like the liberal hotbed for professional sports, I would say.
Yeah.
But Caitlin Clark, she's exposing a lot of deep resentment and, dare I say, racism within the WNBA with her just simply, taking the league by storm. And, so we had the quote incident 2 weeks ago between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, which was really nothing. It was blown up. But the WNBA then opened an investigation after that game because apparently, I don't know if Angel Reese claimed it or if there was an anonymous claim or something. There was a claim that some racial slurs were hurled at Angel Reese in the Indiana Pacers game. And what is the can I put on that board the least likely things to have ever happened, at a WNBA game? Like, that's just not believable, in my opinion. Like,
wait, they're throwing out the Angel Reese was discriminated against?
The fans were apparently selling racial slurs at Angel Reese.
Wow.
No evidence of it, no video of it.
Okay.
You got about 20,000 or more fans in an arena. If that were to happen, somebody's got it on video. And that's just, anytime I hear something like that, I mean, sure, it could happen maybe, but I'm not buying it. And of course, the investigation closed with no evidence of that happening. And Angel Reese could have buried it, when the investigation started and came out and said that there's nothing behind it, but she let it ride because I think she was a little embarrassed that Chicago Sky got destroyed by the Indiana Fever. But not only that, while the WNBA is investigating baseless claims that some, racial slurs were thrown at Angel Reese from the fans, there's a video later that week of Brittany Griner on the bench after she fouled out. Caitlin Clark drew a foul against Brittany Griner and she fouled out. There's footage of Brittany Griner then on the bench afterwards. If you read lips, she said something about that trash white girl. And I've seen some people try to say, "Oh, she's saying what a whack call or something." And I go,
"No,
I can read lips, okay? And the call doesn't have an R in it, so you're not saying that trash Carl. She said that trash white girl. It's pretty obvious there. But even if if you're skeptical of that being said, what if there was a video of Caitlin Clark and she got fouled out by Angel Reese, and she goes to the bench and says something about
that black girl.
There'd be an investigation. She would be suspended. She would be dead and buried and gone. And while the WNBA is investigating this baseless claim that with the Fever fans, but they're not even going to mention or bring up or do an investigation into Brittany Griner being caught saying that. That's just that the double standard is crazy, in my opinion. And the WNBA, they're clearly not ready to be taken to the next level, because if you have so much racist, underlying resentment that you can't even welcome in Caitlin Clark with open arms because she's white, then you got a lot of problems. But I think it's fascinating that this is all being exposed, and it's just simply because Caitlin Clark is good at basketball, and it's spiraling out of control. And it deserves to be called out because the WNBA needs to deal with its racism.
Well,
problem.
the WNBA is mollycoddling it. They are literally enabling it, if you will. And I won't take too much of your time, but I mean, we're talking about the league that actually held an ode to George Floyd last weekend. 5 years later, they're celebrating the life of George Floyd before the game starts. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. It's and like I said last week, I mean, it's even causing people like Ryan Clark to make it a race issue even more and saying that people who are married to white women can't comment on the Angel Reese Caitlin Clark thing because they don't understand the plight of black women in America. It's just I think it's fascinating, like I said, because if the WNBA is going to get to the level it needs to be, they obviously have a racism problem they need to deal with. And the WNBA has a tide that has risen all boats has been Caitlin Clark, because Angel Reese, the reason she became popular was her rivalry with Caitlin Clark in college. And, you got all the teams in the WNBA, the numbers across the board, not just for Indiana Fever, across the board are up. So everybody is benefiting from Caitlin Clark. And no, it's not because she's white. It's because she is a generational talent. So instead of being resentful and, bitter about it, how about you welcome her in and accept it, and you will benefit from it and how she plays. So hopefully we can see this, being toned down in the future. But more importantly, I'd like to see the WNBA, instead of kowtowing to, the liberal narrative, to actually try to do something to protect Caitlin Clark, your player. Because now we have video evidence of players, saying that trash white girl, while also Caitlin Clark being decked every game. I think it's not a coincidence. I'd like to connect those dots.
It's not a coincidence at all, and it's a leadership issue as much as anything. Coaches need to get hold of this. The WNBA may be the parent organization, but the reality is an individual coach can still make a difference in the discipline of their team. And if this individual coach is going to sit by and let all that kind of stuff happen, and we know that Angel Reese's coach is not much of a help on this. So I'm going to say that the leadership is also something I would say has to get engaged on this issue.
I would agree.
Good job, man. That's 3 and out. And you had no overtime.
No overtime.
All right. And we're going to a break. We're coming right back for round 2 of JP on Sports. This is the 2-minute warning coming up. He will have 2 minutes. I got a timer and a buzzer. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, we're going to go to round 2 of JP on Sports. So yes, indeed, JP on Sports has this whole segment we do called the 2-minute warning. And the 2-minute warning is literally, I've got a timer and a buzzer. And he's got 2 minutes for every sports topic he can think of to cram in there. 2 minutes, ready, start, go.
So I feel like weekly I almost have to do like this example of the week that a transgender in high school sports is winning the state championship, because I feel like ever since Trump has put in order for this to stop, we just keep seeing examples of it not stopping. So Marissa Rothenberger is this dude's name, a biological male playing pitcher in softball in Minnesota.
I saw that.
The state of Tim Walz, so kind of tracks. But his team actually, so while he was pitching, his team in the state tournament shut out the defending champs in back-to-back games. Back-to-back games with a dude pitching, they shut out the defending state champs.
Complete no-hitter.
What does that tell you? That doesn't seem like a coincidence to me.
Maybe a little something going on.
Yeah, so they haven't won the state championship yet, but this seems like they're well on their way if they have a dude pitching for them. And if they just shut out the defending champs in back-to-back games, I think that's a sign of what's to come. But like I said, every week I feel like I see an example of it, and it needs to constantly be called out when it's happening, because I feel like if people are too scared to call it out, then it just continues to go on. You got to put on pressure on, for states, even though it's a state like Tim Walz, obviously, but there's been an executive order signed and you need to comply. And if pressure needs to be put on them somehow for this nonsense to stop, because it's just more girls being robbed. I mean, these defending state champs, they could have had a chance to go back to back. And that's something that for the rest of their lives, they know it got robbed from them because a dude went out and shoved it down, and like they had no shot.
Got a big old asterisk next to it.
They have no shot at it. So it's really disappointing, but like I said, it constantly needs to be brought to the light, and pressure needs to put on, Tim Walz. He's probably out doing manly man stuff like fixing trucks and shooting shotguns.
That's right.
Nothing's more manly than having your high school athletes being, compromised because dudes are playing in their sports.
And there you go. 2 minutes. Oh, good time. All right. Reset the clock and start.
So this is kind of on the same thread. However, this is a win for the world of making sports fair. Today, the World Boxing, I guess it's World Boxing Organization, but World Boxing is now introducing mandatory sex testing for their athletes to compete. And if you remember, Iman Khalif, who won the gold medal, who everybody was gaslit from the fact
Paris Olympics.
Yeah, everybody was gaslit that Iman Khalif was intersex, and he passed all the necessary requirements to compete in the women's division, and everybody who called it out was wrong, and he actually was suing people for defamation for simply talking about it. And then 4 or 5 months after the fact, after he had won the gold medal and put these girls' lives at risk, it came out that no, he's actually a dude and a dude all along. But that story did not get, as near as much attention as the story of people getting called out for simply telling the truth. But in this memorandum that World Boxing put out, they actually specifically called out Iman Khalif and said that he is no longer able to compete in the women's division until he goes through mandatory sex testing, sex screening. So I think that is a sign of new times, and I think that deserves to be applauded because that's a big win. boxing in particular, people have died in boxing. And if you have Olympic athlete women boxers who are throwing in the towel after taking like 4 or 5 jabs from him,
Yep.
like that is a sport where somebody could die. So I think this is going to save many women's lives in world boxing. And we finally have, sports across the board and Olympics, mainly in boxing, will be hopefully back to normal and fair. And dudes like Iman Khalif won't have an unfair advantage over women who train their whole lives.
It makes sense. That was the weirdest Olympics ever, by the way.
Oh yeah, and it started off with the mocking of the Last Supper.
Oh my gosh,
Macron's France.
I'm just saying. Timer. All right, there you go. Reset the clock. 2 minutes. Ready? Go.
Well, we had 2 big announcements in the state of Alabama sports-wise. 2 days ago, it was the deadline for folks or guys to withdraw or stay in the NBA draft. And we had Todd Pettiford for Auburn, who was still in the draft, was still floating his name around there. The day the deadline came, he decided to pull his name out of the NBA draft and come back to Auburn, which is a big get for Bruce Pearl and Auburn. This is a kid that has a ton of potential, great shooting point guard for Auburn. And Auburn, truth be told, is losing a lot of, Janai Broome, Dylan Cardwell, Chaney Johnson, all of those guys, were seniors. So anybody they can get back is big. But then at 10:30, not even an hour and a half before the deadline for the NBA draft, LeBaron Philon for Alabama, another stud freshman point guard who everybody thought was no chance he's coming back. No chance. He'll be a first-round pick more than likely. Decides he's going to come back to Alabama as well. So 2 freshman point guards in the state of Alabama made big splashes and announced that they're coming back. And Philon and Todd Pettiford, I'm looking forward to the IBOB next year because those 2 are going to be the guys. Those 2 are going to be the guys for their teams next year. And it's great competition. Like 2 point guards, they're going to be guarding each other and going at it. So I think it's great for both teams that they got those guys back out of the draft. It's going to go a long way because Alabama was kind of in the same spot as Auburn. Alabama lost a lot for the draft this year too. And they really needed a point guard, and Philon leaving hurt. So Philon coming back, and that's kind of the last missing piece Alabama needed. Wow.
Well,
my bad. The bump came in.
Apparently the music came in. Do you think they called each other? Do you think they called it, hey, man, you stay in, I'll stay in? I'll see you at the IBOB.
I'll see it. Maybe they did.
Who knows? All right, good stuff. JP on sports. That's good, man. All right, listen, that's it. We hit it. We're going to the break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio on a Friday afternoon, hour number 3. We'll be right back. man, hour number 3 on a Friday. I love it. Hey, by the way, I got to remind you guys, JP on Sports every Friday, brought to you by our friends at Inspire Advisors. That's Inspire Advisors. Listen, the Inspire Advisors, Paul Breyer and his team there, they are incredibly good at helping you to develop your bottom line for your investments, grow your return on investment. But at the same time, they can do it with what's called BRI, biblically responsible investing. They can help you find whether there is wokeness and anti-Christian stuff built into the companies that your portfolio might contain, and then show you some reasonable alternatives to keep the ROI while using BRI. It's very cool. And so I want to encourage you, if you're looking at investing, if you're looking at starting up your portfolio, or you want to shift your portfolio into a more biblically responsible investment portfolio posture, well, then my friends at Inspire Advisors may be there for you. You need to check them out. They're great at what they do, and they've been a sponsor of the show for a while. Inspire Advisors, Paul Breyer, here's their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com. That's www.moneypatternwealth.com. And do me a favor, tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio. I would appreciate that very much. I got several text messages to get to. Let me see what we got here. Matthew from Washington says, Phil, SageCon sounds like a new shirt. Thank you for the prayers. Well, you know what? Not a bad idea. Yeah, good enough. David at Bucky's again says, JP, Florida sure didn't look good today, and Bama not doing so well either. Did not know that.
Yeah, well, part of the SEC being such a hard schedule, they may be going in limping a little bit with the hard schedule they just went through. So
coming in limping.
Yeah.
Adam from Athens says, JP, you know who's not hosting a regional Alabama? Go Vols.
Yeah.
He says, how about half the teams in softball tournament is SEC?
That's true. Softball as well. Yeah, Alabama did not finish the season quite as well as they would have liked. But we'll see. They can go on a run.
Well, I'm not saying anything until Auburn beats East Connecticut State or whatever it is.
Actually, it was Central Connecticut State.
Connecticut State. Okay. John from Huntsville checking in said, is it possible for Caitlin Clark to leave the WNBA and play in the NBA? Well, under the current rules, probably.
She would get creamed.
I am pretty sure she does not want to be up against LeBron or somebody. Who knows?
Yeah.
Just anyway, no. And then Matt in Madison says, hey, Brittany, Russia's calling. Does anybody watch the WNBA? It could be a publicity deal to get attention for the WNBA.
I wouldn't give him that much credit.
Matt Madison, thank you for the text. I got to tell you, I'm going to chase a rabbit here for a minute, because I was literally during the break, I was looking up on the screens, and the Will Kane show was on, and he was just doing like a lighthearted segment for a minute, and he had a panel, and the question is, what reality show would you be on? And I looked at that, and I immediately thought of something. There's some reality shows that I like. I like some of the shows where they're redoing houses. My wife and I are just like caught up right now in this new show about a young couple that inherits a castle, actually in France. It's a chateau, they call it, but it's amazing. It's called, now I forgot, Castle Impossible. And they're trying to renovate it. She inherited it from her grand. It's crazy cool. It's really neat. But then I think about some of the reality shows that are out there. Like some of the very first ones I still love. Like I used to love Orange County Choppers. And I still love American Pickers. I just do. I could watch American Pickers all day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could watch it back to back. But then there's some that I look at and go, how did that become a reality show? Like, I'm just going to throw it out there. Naked and Afraid has to be one of the stupidest things I have ever seen made for TV. Who sat around the boardroom going, we need a new show. We got to put it in prime time. What do you think we ought to do? I don't know. Let's get a bunch of dad bods and ugly sisters to run naked through the woods. I'm like, what? And then who's got to be the camera guy? Who's got to follow him through the woods while, oh, geez. Oh, wow. Oh, did he just, oh, man. And next thing you know, it's like, good Lord.
That's true. I mean, if they were clothed, it would be a bit better because it's a survival show. But it's like they got to be naked,
clothed and afraid. Why is it got to be naked? What's the point of that? You got
going back to your primal ancestors and how they
primal
survived.
ancestors put on furs and wrapped something around their
true.
feet. They didn't run through the jungle naked, stepping on thorns and getting bitten by strange animals. I look at it and go, no, our primal ancestors we're smarter than you.
I can't remember what the prize of that is, like cash prize of when it, like, it's got to be enticing for somebody to go
Wait a
do
minute.
that.
Is there not, I mean, they're not getting paid unless they win?
I don't know. That's what I'm
Is it like
wondering.
Survivor where we have to get all the way to the end? So hang on a second. Let me ask you this then. Okay, now I move to another realm. It's not just who thought up this show. It's who sits around going, I really want to go on a reality show. I'll do the one where I'm naked. And
You'd be surprised.
God.
There's $100,000 cash prize apparently for Naked and Afraid. So
that's not enough. It's
yeah.
not enough.
I mean, it's enough for somebody, obviously, because they got people doing it.
Getting bit in all the wrong places. I'm just saying, tan lines everywhere. Like I said, the woods are full of dad bods and ugly sisters, and the cameraman's got the worst job in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
Just
Wait, so I want to go back to the prompt of if you could be in any reality TV show.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming like with American Pickers, like you're not just in there, like you are an active part of it. Like you are going in and you're in the role of the American Pickers going to do it. Like you're a part of it. I don't know. I feel like, and I understand that it's scripted and it came out that it was no. I'm talking about not that show, not American Pickers. The show I'm about to say.
Okay.
I'm pretty like obviously Duck Dynasty was scripted.
Yeah.
But it was hilarious.
I feel like
it'd be very fun to be a part of that, at least, even if it's a part, part
I
of the
think that would be a hoot.
Yes.
Can I just be the guy that comes and goes? I'll be your other, your other brother Earl or something. Just let other brother Daryl. Let me just come in for a few minutes and go back out. I met Phil Robertson briefly.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Just like at an event. And I would have loved to have been around the Robertsons for a while.
He's got a great testimony. Phil Robertson does.
Yeah, he does.
But they had a marathon of Duck Dynasty on this weekend in honor of Phil Robertson. And I guess I forgot how funny that show is. Like I haven't watched it in a long time, but I've watched a lot of it. And it's, even though it's clearly scripted, it's still great. It's hilarious.
Okay. So all right, then I guess as long as by the way, we're totally chasing a rabbit, and I'm fine with that, by the way. I wasn't ready to go back into politics and all that yet.
Yeah.
So what reality show would you want to be on? If you say Naked and Afraid, I'm going to be very bothered.
Definitely not Naked and Afraid. Gosh, I mean, Duck Dynasty would be one. But I guess there's biasness too. I feel like mainly the reality sports shows I watch are like along my interest. I'm not a big reality TV watcher as a whole, but like the sports ones, like there's the one of the Ultimate Fighter where they it's like an MMA tournament, except they hold these guys up in a house in Vegas for like 3 weeks and then not able to talk to the outside world because they're competing in a tournament against each other. That's pretty entertaining to watch.
And they start breaking furniture for
yes, yeah. That'd be a fun one to be a part of. But I don't know. I think I'd have to ponder that one for a little bit there.
No episode of Jersey Shore in your future?
Definitely not. No.
Have you ever seen the show though, Practical Jokers? Or Impractical Jokers?
Yes, one of the greatest shows ever.
The first time I saw that, and I've only watched a few, and sometimes it gets tiresome, but the first time I saw it, my son and I were watching together, and I literally laughed. I thought I was going to throw up. It was that funny.
It's great. Unfortunately, Joe left the show, so it hasn't really been the same since Joe Gallo left. Yeah, it hasn't been the same since then. But in its prime, it was great.
Okay. I see we got somebody texting in. This is a new texter, by the way. We got somebody on this one. Brand spanking new in the tell us who you are, where you're from. It says American Pickers is the best. Thursdays on History Channel, and it's on all night. Rerun or not, it's a can't miss. That and Bones, great shows. There you go.
Oh, by the way, John from Huntsville is commenting on the YouTube. He says, Phil, you should go on the reality show Survivor because you're a lawyer and lawyers do very well on that show. In fact, a lawyer just won this year's season.
Okay. Now, I did have, as a local guy, used to be my neighbor right here in Gadsden, Alabama, who competed quite well in American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah. I've known some people who
Jimmy Bogle,
like done that training before. It looks hard.
It was legit. I mean, Jimmy Bogle, he lives in my neighborhood now, but he did it and did pretty well.
Also, Gina King commented just now. He said, or she said, better late than never was the best. Better late than never. I don't know if I ever watched that one.
I don't know that show. Is that a chick show?
Probably.
Before we go to the break, Mike from Coxie, Alabama says, sounds like you guys just invented reality radio. You even named it. It's called Chasing a Rabbit. That may be true. And we're taking a break right now. We'll come back from this break, and I got some stuff to talk about. Listen, I got to decide now whether we're going to do home fries or fixing jackassery next. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. Rusty from Harvest says, this is my youngest child. He has sent a picture. Outstanding. Says, my youngest child, he turns 40 this summer. His pictures from graduation from UAH. He's a Duck Dynasty cast off or an extra in a Viking movie. What do you think? That's an epic beard.
That is an epic beard.
That is an epic beard.
I'm jealous.
That's a legit beard, man. That's like down to your knees, a legit beard. Rip Van Winkle beard. Very cool. Congratulations to him, Rusty. Jay from Hartzell. By the way, we got another text here. Oh, the classics. Andy Griffith, Lucy, the Waltons, says somebody who we don't know yet, but tell us your name and where you're from. Jay from Hartzell says, me against Dale Jackson in a WWE cage match. Must see TV. Jay has thrown down the gauntlet.
Yeah, he has.
2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Well, allegedly Dale retired last year when I was working for him, but then I saw he was in the annual Huntsville wrestling thing again this year. So I think he'll ever retire. I think he's always open for that.
I just go ahead and try to create the mystique and let them wonder if I could. The brand new texter we had a moment ago about American Pickers is Jared from Huntsville. Jared, appreciate you. He says a long-time listener, first-time texting. Well, we got you now, man. We're glad you're in the text lines. Text more often. We'd like it. Jeff from Athens says, Man versus Food is fun to watch. I have seen that.
It is.
That is interesting. I don't do the food shows a lot, but every once in a while I do. And I love the ones that go to the real places.
Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives is a great one.
That's the one with Guy Fieri, right?
Guy Fieri, yeah, it's a great one.
That's a great show. And by the way, some of the food they show in there almost ought to be illegal. It looks so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like the biggest, sloppiest burgers you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah. I was a big Iron Chef watcher too.
Whoa. No Iron Chef.
You don't like Iron Chef?
Nobody should be forced to eat some of the things they make you put in those concoctions.
Well, you know what you're signing up for.
David and Bucky says, I was a kid a long time ago. My favorite reality show was Candid Camera. That was the very first of the reality shows, I believe. And yeah, that was hilarious. Graham from Meridianville. Oh yeah, I did hear this. By the way, Loretta Swit, who played Hot Lips Houlihan for many, many years on MASH, passed away today. That's something. End of an era. All right, let me jump into some stuff here. I'm gonna do. Listen, every once in a while, we look at the stories that are around us. We realize that there's things that are out there that we can talk about DC all the time, but sometimes the stories happening in your backyard have as much or more of an impact on your life as anything. And when I get those all together, it's time for me to put together a batch of what I like to call home fries. Yeah, cook them up, man. Cook them up. Got a story here that our buddy Yaffe wrote for Yellowhammer News. So there's a lot of talk right now about Space Command. What and when? Well, the new Air Force Secretary has apparently been confirmed. I believe that's correct. And that's part of what we're waiting on. But the story is out right now that the Government Accountability Office, this came out just in the last couple of days, released a new report confirming that there were shortfalls in the manner in which Space Command headquarters being put to Redstone Arsenal was reviewed during the Biden administration. No, you think? Okay, at least we have an official document now. But the reality is we knew that all along. That's like saying, well, there's some suspicion that Biden may have been mentally compromised. Well, we knew that all along, but now we got the official. So yeah, back in 2023, Joe Biden announced Space Command would remain in Colorado despite the fact that we had passed every gate. Well, Alabama Representative Mike Rogers chairs the House Armed Services Committee. And he came out and detailed the Government Accountability Office's recent findings, claiming that it found that there were failures to follow so-called analysis of alternatives best practices, meaning when they examined all of the various aspects of what should happen and when, they didn't follow best practices. And the GAO believes, he says, that best practices would have been more relevant if effectively implemented. The end result of this, y'all, is that Space Command is probably coming to Redstone. And I would say we're going to get an announcement. I bet we're going to get an announcement in the next 30 days. And it's going to be something. And I think what they're doing right now is they're putting all the building blocks in place. So keep in mind, home fries, if that happens, game changer, you're looking at probably upwards of 1,300 more jobs coming to North Alabama, South Tennessee. And it's going to be Redstone is about to be the absolute pinnacle of major headquarters alignment, which is crazy because if you think about it, if anybody's ever looked at the history of Redstone Arsenal, and this is fascinating, there's a great book that was put together by a local citizen, Ray Jones, about his dad, Carl T. Jones, for which anybody who's lived in Huntsville knows where Carl T. Jones Drive is and Jones Valley Farm in South Huntsville. But the Jones family was instrumental in helping keep Redstone Arsenal from going away. In the late 50s, early 60s, I believe, what we understand is that the local leadership in Huntsville got wind that the Army wanted to get rid of Redstone Arsenal. It was a dog patch, backwater, small, nothing much there kind of post. And the Army was like, we don't need this. And it was Carl T. Jones who helped spearhead an organized effort to go and get basically commitments to build missiles and other, defense things that wind up becoming the space industry later at Redstone Arsenal. Look at where Huntsville is today. Had these few leaders, Carl T. Jones being one of them, not stepped into the mix to fight to keep something that didn't even have a lot going on at the time, but they could see the potential. If they had not stepped in to do that, we would not now have Army Materiel Command, FBI headquarters, soon to be Space Command, the home of EOD training, Ballistic Missile Defense Systems Command, in the Marshall Space Flight Center. None of that would have been here. It was all because of a few people stepping up and doing that. And now we're looking at Space Command. I'm thinking this is huge. So I'm loving it and glad of it.
Yeah, I've never heard that story before.
Had you not?
I lived in Huntsville my whole life, lived like 10 minutes down the road from Jones Valley.
I'm going to bring you that book. It's a fascinating read. It really is. There's a couple of books out there. I've got them both at home, I believe. All right, we're taking a break. Come right back. Last half hour on a Friday. I got more home fries, Alabama and Tennessee stuff. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We're right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the Southeast US of A. Y'all have talked about this show. Whew, I mean to say, goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we get to call once again Fort Benning. And then big old patches in North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. And oh, by the way, that is just the radio footprint, just the radio audience. Then there's all of y'all that everywhere in the whole wide world tune in on the World Wide Web and catch us on live stream every day on our various platforms, to include our website, rightsidemedia.org. A bunch of y'all podcast the show after the fact. Anyway, the bottom line is this. If you're hearing my voice right now, just know this. We love you. We appreciate you. This audience is the reason why we sit in front of these microphones every day and prep all the stuff that we do. So thank you very much for making this show what it is. I got several text messages, and I'm going to jump back into home fries. Mike, here's my buddy from high school, Mike from GHS class of 83. He says, hey, Phil, concur on the Jones Farm book. Good read. He said, Ray Jones was my Sunday school teacher back in the day. I just finished General Boykin's book based on your recommendations. Awesome read. Man, Mike, glad to hear that, and thank you so much. General Boykin is one of my personal heroes. I still text with him periodically, and I need to get him on the show. I do. In fact, what I need to do, you know what? I just declared it. We're going to wind up doing a long-form podcast with him, I bet. That's a good one. That's a good one. One of the founders of Delta Force. But yeah, Mike, thank you very much, and I'm so glad to hear about the fact that Ray Jones had a time in your life like that. He was a great man. I just enjoyed getting to know him. JT Lacey Spring, and by the way, you know what? I'm going to say this. I'm just going to go ahead and say something that he probably would not have wanted said during his lifetime, but one of the very first financial backers of starting Rightside Radio was Ray Jones. Just laying that out there. That's part of the reason why I was able to go on the air at all, was because of Ray Jones. So there you go. JT Lacey Springs says, you need to start having a Chase the Rabbit segment for 30 minutes each week. Wow. He said also Redstone in the late 40s had a car maker on site, which was called the Keller Motor Company. I did not know that. I've not heard that. I need to look that up now. In fact, my buddy Mike from Grissom High School class of 83, being a car guy, might need to find a Keller that was built at Redstone. That would work. John C. from Madison said, I got stationed at Redstone in 1983. He said, when I flew into the airport, I don't even think they had a terminal building at the time. They brought the ladder out to the airplane. 565 was not here yet. University Drive was 2 lanes each way with a ditch in the middle. Madison had maybe 8,000 people. I went through Hawk Middle School and Patriot Missile School at Redstone Arsenal. I do miss the old days, especially since they got rid of the old school. It's great that they're going to use it again. Yeah, so John C., appreciate your service, by the way. 1983. The Parkway had a little more going on that, but yeah, you're right. University Drive was 2 lanes back then. That's before they expanded it all out. And I'll tell you what else too. I go back even further. My grandfather was post commander at Redstone when I was a kid. So in 1971, 2, 3 timeframe, I think, thereabouts. My grandfather was post commander, General George McBride, and he was also the project manager on the old Hawk missile projects. So very cool.
Both my grandfathers at Redstone.
That's right. That's what brought your granddad down here, right?
Yep. And so I'm grateful for that. Grateful for Redstone because that resulted in me.
There you go. And then, by the way, one of our brand spanking new texters is Creek from Decatur. Creek from Decatur, we're glad you're here. And then Jeff Rowe from Indiana checking in, saying in Louisville, Kentucky, 4th Street live at the old Galleria, and he's basically enjoying himself. Very cool. Very cool. All right, let me do a few more home fries segments for you. So in the race for the U.S. Senate seat being vacated by Tommy Tuberville, it's getting thick and also getting thinner. Did I make sense there? First of all, I will tell you this. There were strong rumors that Dale Strong, Congressman Strong out of Huntsville, was considering throwing his name in the ring his hat in the ring for the run for the U.S. Senate. He's not. Yellowhammer News, our friend Mecca Music over there at Yellowhammer wrote this piece, Dateline, yesterday, saying that U.S. Representative Dale Strong has confirmed that he will seek re-election to the House, ending speculation that he might enter the race for Alabama. Well, he's doing a good job as a House member. I don't think Alabama's losing anything by him not being in the Senate. He represents Alabama's 5th congressional district, elected to the House in 2022. He was former chairman of the Madison County Commission, serves on House Appropriations. So I get it. And by the way, it's a big leap to go from running in your district to running statewide. I don't fault anybody for not particularly wanting to do that. Here's something else though. Story on 1819 News. Mo Brooks leaves the door open for Senate. I don't know. What do you think? Is he really leaving the door open, or is he just being cagey?
I think he's being cagey. I think the quote in that article is something like how very unlikely, but you never know. I don't see it happening.
So apparently on the Dale Jackson show, he and Dale are pretty tight, and Mo Brooks was there talking about the empty seat left by Tuberville. And it says his response was, "I'm not announcing any decisions today." Okay. He did say there's zero chance he would run for governor. He said, if I was offered the position right now today without having to run for it, I'd still decline. That's just not something that affects our country as much as the U.S. Senate position does. He said, now it can affect the state of Alabama, and Lord knows Alabama could use a top-level governor, but that's no interest of mine. I'd go crazy running all over the state, sitting through all those meetings that don't involve public policy. So Mo Brooks not saying no to the U.S. Senate, but I suspect, though, listen, he's been out of D.C. for a couple of years, and he's probably his mental health is better for being out.
Oh yeah, I mean, but he'd be swimming upstream, to be honest with you, because if he throws his name in there, Trump's gonna do everything he can to go against him. So
that's true.
He would be swimming upstream.
That's
I would think.
A possibility.
Yeah.
They're not in a good place.
No.
But I tell you else who is running though, and somebody who has been around Trump. We have one of our podcasters, one of our team members, so to speak, a guy who's been on the show multiple times, is Jared Hudson, former Navy SEAL, who has now put his name in to run for the U.S. Senate. He's getting a lot of notoriety, a lot of traction. But somebody else who's got name ID and statewide office experience, and that is our Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall, who just threw his name in yesterday. So if you have not heard, right now the race is for U.S. Senate between Jared Hudson and Attorney General Steve Marshall. Marshall announced on yesterday, that he would run for the U.S. Senate, setting up a high-stakes race to fill the seat formerly held by Tommy Tuberville, says Yellowhammer News. I'm running, Marshall said. It's the honor of a lifetime serving as your AG. We've taken bold action, gotten things done for Alabama and our country, from standing strong against overreach and woke policies of the Biden administration to standing with President Trump to defend our values. I don't know for a fact that we're going to see yet an endorsement by Trump. But I do know this. I know Steve Marshall has, like, if you watched the Trump trials in New York, coming out of the courthouse, standing next to Trump while he was giving the speech, Steve Marshall. We'll see. And
the video ad, I think they grabbed every little snippet of Trump saying Steve Marshall they could find out there. So they're definitely
they're pushing for it.
If there was one of the field right now, I would think Steve Marshall. If there were to be a Trump endorsement, I think it may be Steve Marshall, but who knows?
But I'll be honest with you though, Trump loves the military guys.
Yeah, he does.
And I don't know the inside baseball of who's in Jared Hudson's camp right now. I don't know who his consultants are. I haven't even asked him. I don't know if they're the kind of people that are already inside the Beltway working angles, but I do know this. There are groups that are Beltway tight, if you will, that have been asking for Jared Hudson to run. So he's not without allies in the go for it.
The question is, who'll get a Katie Britt endorsement down the line?
I'm wondering the same thing.
Because I think that one, I mean, obviously Trump's going to hold weight no matter what, but I think Katie Britt's would hold just as much weight in the long run. So who knows? We'll see.
Who knows? We'll see. I'll end this segment on this. I got a couple things for Tennessee here. I don't know what's going on with Nashville. So I do not picture Nashville being liberal. I realize that Nashville has gotten a little bit purple in its politics, but I don't picture them having some of the jackassery that they've got going on with their leadership up there right now. But I've got a story here from Daily Signal and another one from New York Post. The mayor of Nashville, a guy named Freddie O'Connell, I believe. How did the great state of Tennessee get a mayor of its capital city like this? But Freddie O'Connell has been spearheading an effort to try and keep ICE from being allowed to do its job in Nashville, literally telling city employees they will not cooperate. O'Connell has publicly derided the ICE raids at press conferences, saying what's clear today is that people who do not share our values of safety and community have the authority to cause deep community harm. And basically said the Metro Nashville Police Department were not going to be involved in these raids. Well, he is now, I believe, under investigation. And Representative Andy Ogles, who's a congressman from Tennessee, a Republican, he's now looking to try and basically ensure that Nashville is cooperating. And he's calling out the mayor in a hard way. Y'all, this is right up the road from us. I mean, can you imagine that happening in Huntsville, Alabama, in Mobile, Alabama? I can't. And yet you can be in Nashville. We're geographically so close. You can be there within an hour from Huntsville-ish. And now Jeff from Indiana might tell me differently, but
Trashville.
Yeah, really. But Ogles, Representative Ogles said he is choosing criminals over Tennesseans. That's messed up. And that is right down the road from us.
Well, I mean, you said, how can a great Republican state like Tennessee let Nashville have a mayor? I mean, you could ask the same. How does the great red state of Alabama let Randall Woodfin become the mayor of Birmingham and Stephen Reed be the mayor of Montgomery? So it's unfortunate.
I actually don't have an answer for that. I'll just go ahead and say touche. But yeah, the New York Post ran a piece on this too, and they said that Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell is now being investigated by the feds for allegedly aiding and abetting illegal immigrants and obstructing ICE agents. So it's beyond just getting called out for it. He is apparently now actually under investigation for openly and flagrantly trying to resist ICE's efforts. So that's messed up. And then I didn't even get to it, but I'll just briefly say Chattanooga's police chief is about to go on trial for 17 felony and misdemeanor charges.
That's a lot.
How do you become the police chief and you've got 17 felony charges against you now? My gosh. I'm going to go ahead and say DEI hire. Did I say that?
At the very least, the criminal hire.
I did. DEI hire. And there was no meritocracy, apparently. They hired a felon to be the police chief of a great city like Chattanooga. All right, take me to a break, JP. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, just making common sense like a superpower. Real quick, 2 texts, then I'm going to take a call. Creek from Decatur, it says, Nashville is so lib. Listen, y'all, stop playing Mark Leveling and put JP on from 5 to 8. Mark Levin.
Thanks, Creek.
Yeah, there you go. I like it.
I don't know if I'm ready to take the Mark Levin spot.
you could do it, man. And then John from Huntsville has the grades. It says JP and Bunny Pounds get an A double plus for their equally fantastic performances, which means today's winner is obviously the amazing Phil Williams. Thank you, John. With an A triple plus. Congratulations. By the way, he says they should create a reality show called Saban's Biggest Fan. At the end of the season, JP will be the last season a Saban fan standing and be declared Nick Saban's biggest fan, and also go home with the $1 million grand prize.
$1 million? I'll sign up for that.
That's an easy win for you.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what we did? We still don't have our regular phones back up, but we're able to do this electronic connection, this digital connection. And I just reached out to Jeff Rowe from Indiana, and I said, man, we have missed you all week. I'm sending you a clean feed connection. Guess who's on the line right now? Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Coming at you from 4th Street Live in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh,
down at the old Galleria where your wife should know where that's at.
She does indeed. Well, that's good, man. Well, how you been? I hadn't talked to you all week.
Been doing pretty good. Been real busy fixing backhoes and fixing tractors and getting the pool ready to go. And I've been a busy feller, and I'm going to be off mostly all next week too. So
is this vacation
I've got a little bit of time.
Is this the route on a downtime?
Things are slow. They usually take 10 to 12 loads a day. Now they're only taking 5 for 5 a day. So,
well, you're still our truck driving buddy. So, tell you what, let me ask you, I don't know if you had a chance to hear much of the show today, but I ran the whole thing with Christians Engaged. We did some home fries. We had sports. What do you think about all this stuff? What's on your mind?
I think that you're talking about this cop in the top cop in Chattanooga there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, what does that tell you? I mean, we got to call out the people when they're wrong and when they're right, and when you're a corrupt cop and everything, we need to put it to him really bad.
It's actually a her. It's actually a female. I mean,
her.
I think the whole thing was like one big DEI glass ceiling breaking boondoggle is what I think it was.
Oh, even a DEI in Chattanooga? Come on.
Yeah.
You want to see Rock City, not libtards running around the town there. You know what I mean?
Every city's got them, but I've heard that Chattanooga has got its share. But yeah, she's got 17 felonies against her, and her trial's about to start. And I'm thinking, 17 felony. It was all, by the way, it was forgery and creating false documents and just it's like nuts.
Yeah. We need to really come down on a lot of people. I mean, that's like this people in the Biden administration. Once we find out who's in charge of the auto pen, they need to be locked up for life. I think if we find out who's been doing this, we need to reverse a lot of things.
I think it's starting to reach critical mass. I think they're trying to pretend like things are okay, but I think in the Biden camp they're panicking. I really think that they were to the point that they thought they'd get Biden in, and then they'd announce that he had cancer and he'd get out and give it to Kamala. And you know what? It's you live a lie. Guess what? At some point, the lie catches up to you.
Yeah, and that's the only way Kamala would ever win anything, I'd say. Be my guess. She gets it handed to her every time.
She's never technically won an election by herself on the national level. Of course, she was a U.S. senator and she was an AG, and I get it. But everything she did, if you looked at it, Kamala was like a senator for like 2 years before she ran for president. I mean, it was like she wanted to be the next Barack Obama. She wanted to be the one that was basically crowned with the moment, and it just never worked. And then why they chose her, I have no idea.
Yeah, and Barack Obama, you may disagree with his policies and everything, but he was an intelligent man. He was not a Kamala Harris.
No, and I don't think he would have ever chosen her for his running mate either. Well, I don't know. We'll wait and see. Hey, by the way, you drive through Nashville all the time. We got about a minute left. But did you see the thing about the Nashville mayor is refusing to cooperate with ICE and trying to stand in their way?
Oh, good. I'd like to see that guy locked up then. Maybe traffic would get better if it had a different mayor. You never know.
You know what? If we can blame the traffic on him, we'd take it. Hey, listen, man, I just wanted to hear your voice. Hope you're doing well. Blessings on you, and enjoy your time. Get all the honeydew projects done. All right.
Oh, that's what I've been doing. I'm about ready to go back to work.
All right, Jeff from Indiana. We appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Y'all have a good one. See ya.
We'll see you, man. All right, listen. What are we down to? About 30 seconds or so? Listen, it has been an amazing week. A lot going on. It was a short week, felt like a long week, but nonetheless, the weekend is here. And I say it all the time, but I mean it. You guys are the reason why we do what we do. JP and I can sit here and push buttons and talk into a can all day long. Ain't nobody out there. What difference would it make? So we do appreciate you more than you could possibly know. So God bless your weekend, and make sure that you remember